The thirst is real.
All right, please welcome. She is a former Miss Cruisin' Tango, a cosplay icon, and she also performs as Ginger Spice with two of our Canada Drag Race contestants. Please welcome Baby Bell Bell.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm so happy you're here. And then we have one of my good Judies, MTV, One Girl Five Gays, and funny guy on Instagram. You have to watch his Instagram stories. They make me LOL. It's David Robert.
Yay. Please welcome to the stage, David Robert.
Woo!
So let's just touch down on the fact that we just witnessed an iconic moment in Canadian drag and reality TV history. We have Canada's Drag Race.
That's crazy.
Yay! It's finally here.
Is it too bold to say it was like truly one of the best Canadian reality shows I've ever seen? I mean, it was expensive, honey.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
It was really, really impressive. I think, you know, all of us Canadians, sometimes we get a little bit nervous when we see there's going to be a version of our show. And then we think, oh no, we'll be disappointed. And I was not disappointed one little bit. It was so good.
Right.
So good.
And it was like oddly a nod to the American version, but still Canadian. And I mean, we can dive into it, but I didn't miss RuPaul.
No, we'll get there. We'll get there because it's true. No, but I like how RuPaul, like his voiceover and stuff. I was like, oh, he's still there. I like that.
Right. Okay, so to kick things off, I want to play a fun game called Who Said That?
Who am I saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
So basically, I pulled 4 lines from the Queen's intro, Meet the Queens videos, and I want you guys to guess who said them. Cool?
Okay.
Up first, we have, I do different makeup every time, so it takes me a little longer than those of us who do the same face every day, but not saying any names.
Oh?
Oh, wow. That wasn't on the first episode, right? No, that was
No,
something
these are
else.
from the Meet the Queen videos.
Okay. Sorry. I was like, I'm like, what did I miss?
Did Lemon say that?
No.
Was
Okay.
it Jimbo?
Yeah, it was Jimbo.
I do a different makeup every time, so it takes me a little longer than those of us that do the same face every day. But not saying any names.
And then we have, I still feel like I'm on a prank show and Ashton Kutcher is about to pop up and say, nope.
Oh.
That was Juicebox, I think.
Yeah, look at you, 2 for 2.
Okay.
Still feel like I'm on a prank show and that like Ashton Kutcher is gonna pop out and be like, nope.
And then our last one is, actually, we found out a few days that I have been doing the drag the least amount of time out of all of the girls.
Queen P?
Was it Priyanka? Yeah.
No, it was Lemon, actually, which shocked me.
What?
Oh, you're right. Yeah. She's pretty new too, actually, I guess.
I love her.
Actually, we found out kind of near the first few days that I have been doing the drag the least amount of time out of any of the girls.
It's really interesting, too, is we have some like new queens and then some like drag legends, which is a nice mix when it comes to like a well-versed cast. But before we dive into the episode, I want to get off. We want to start acknowledging queer excellence. It's a tough world out there. And, you know, we are really in this fight, in this race for equality across the board, race, gender, sexuality. So I just want to shout out, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but the House of Avalon is basically this group of queer kids from Arkansas that fled Arkansas and they're now in LA and then have just blown up. Marco Monroe is now the stylist for Lizzo and has created all of her iconic looks, including the little purse. And they're also the visionaries behind Gigi Good. So they helped her with all of her finale stuff. And it's just so cool to see queer kids from Arkansas left their like shitty state. And now not only are they like at the forefront of pop culture, Lizzo's one of the biggest pop icons we have right now. And then Gigi Good, another drag legend. It just goes to show that it doesn't matter where you're from, you can find your way. And if you feel like you have a creative bone in your body, just get out there and do what you're doing. Because he didn't know that he was a stylist. He met Lizzo, was helping out, and then she saw something in him. And that's what it is just putting yourself out there.
What? Cool. I love that.
So crazy.
That's so awesome. So cool.
Yeah, so shout out House of Avalon. Keep doing what you're doing. And I mean, you're already blown up, so I can't wait to see what they do next. Okay, so let's talk about entrances.
Yay!
We have our first 12 queens entering the Canada Drag Race workroom. What are some standout entrances, and what are some favorite, like, you know, you have to have your intro line, like this is your moment to introduce yourself to the country. Any standout moments?
It's so
Oh my
great.
gosh.
I love the pre was first. He's like, boom, bitch, with that question mark. I love that. Tainomi was good too. I love that Tainomi came with a line as well. I loved it.
I have to say, I think my favorite line would have to be Boa's utter queens. I'm better than these utter queens. Like, she's so dumb, but so epically amazing at the same time.
Right. And then, okay, so I want to know the tea about why the Toronto queens were so gagged when Boa walked in the workroom. Like, they were so shocked.
Wait.
You know what? Like, when I found out that she was on the show, I was kind of shocked too, to be honest with you. Like, I was like, what? Like, she got on, but at the same time, like, you know, the casting process for reality TV is so crazy, right? So you don't really necessarily know, because they're trying to fill this whole cast. And then after watching the first episode, I was like, oh my God, I'm like so glad she got on. But I was surprised, because even when Juice Box, it cuts to her where she's like, you know, she has a bit of a reputation in Toronto for being messy and like annoying. And it's like, yeah, she does.
Where was she performing before?
She has performed at all of the like the bars, I think, at least on Church Street, but for sure, but it wasn't a regular performer. Like, you know, instead of the, like, I'd say the house queens getting like those 3 or 4 shows a night at all the bars, you know, she'd be there maybe once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, like I mean, when she first started out, she had like, she's been doing drag for, I want to say, at least 5 or 6 years now. And when she first started out, she was even messier. Like, no one, like, she annoyed everybody. She would throw stuff on the stage. Like, I remember her just throwing like flour everywhere to make it look like it was cocaine everywhere, and the bar was so mad at her. And like just one thing after another, like whipped cream in numbers, and like not telling the drag queen who went on after. Like, it would be really, like, it was just really unprofessional sometimes. But like she said, she's sobered up now, and she's become like, it really has become a better person. And you saw the growth in Boa, and like, you just love her now. And you're like, hey, you know what? Quit drinking. Don't ever drink again, because this is helping you a lot.
Win the whole show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was just so curious about that, because it was just like the look on their faces was so shocked. Another iconic entrance moment, which kind of seems, and we'll talk about it, she was cursed from the jump, but Juice Box getting stuck to her tights and not being able to rip her hand up.
That was so iconic. She's like, don't freak out. She's amazing. I love her.
She's so adorable. Like, Juice Box, like, I think that they like, when you're watching the episode, you're like, that is Juice Box. She's like this cute little, like, they kept saying pop star, princess fantasy. Like, that is her. And I, like, they showed her truthfully. But there was a part of me that's like, just rip it out, girl. Like, who cares about Drag Race? Just rip that tight. But those tights are super expensive. So I understand. If I was at Cruise, I would be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to rip my tights. But if I was on Drag Race, I would have been like, boom, like, oh
my God.
Yeah, it was good. What were you gonna say, David?
That was so cute. And I'm trying to remember who else was good. I loved Lemon's look, that huge coat, like, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think she took I'm assuming the inspiration was Rihanna's Met Gala, and I was like living for it. And like, it was so well done. Like, Lemon she looked expensive.
Yes.
Yep. And now we're switching gears. So they're staying in their entrance look, and we get to the mini challenge, which was kind of a nod to season 2. Remember when they're on the motorcycles with the big fan? And I was impressed because all those wigs stayed on. The girls were prepared to be wind blown. Any standouts there in terms of the mini challenge? I was shocked at the winner, by the way.
Oh, that was a mistake. That was not the winner. But
yeah, I don't agree with the winner at all. Like, even when I see the photos, I saw them all this morning, like on Instagram and on the internet, and I'm like, really? Like, like when I saw the photos, I actually think Scarlett Bobo's and Tainomi's were my favorite for photo wise. But watching the challenge, I know it's more than just a photo with TV, because it's still watching the challenge. Like, my favorite to watch was Jimbo. Like,
Right.
there was a whole story going up the mountain, at the top of the mountain. Like, I have rewatched that clip at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Again. Who else was good? I really liked Juicebox, actually. The way she's like, oh my God, they try to go up and down. And then her falling, I know that wasn't actually part of the challenge, but I was just like, wow, that's so endearing. She's so cute.
It's I hate when people do this like on podcasts or YouTubes, but like compare queens. But I just feel like Juicebox and Pheromone both have this just like lovable innocence quality, just like beautiful heart, that it's like, I'm not comparing their drag aesthetics, like more so their personalities, you know what I mean? Like when she fell, is like such a Pheromone moment.
Who else was good? Pre was good too. You know, Pre came from TV. She's gonna like, she gave it, right? Giving them faces, like running up.
Yeah, sprinted up.
There's something about Pre's confidence that is just, it doesn't seem where, you know, where Kind was seeming like cocky and arrogant. Priyanka's just seems natural. Like you just want to keep rooting for her because she's such a superstar, and she just seems, it's like she's having so much fun. And like, that's, as an audience, what we like to watch.
Right. So then Kind wins, which I don't understand, but so then she gets the task of assigning the Roots fabric boxes to all of the queens. So I just am curious, if you are in a position, it's the first episode, are you trying to take out your competition this early? Like, I know it's different if it was top 6, but this is the first episode. What would kind of be your strategy if you had one when assigning boxes?
You know what? I feel like you couldn't even really screw people with those boxes. Like sometimes, you know, when you're like pairing up the makeover challenge, like sometimes maybe you can be shady and give someone that like maybe has like a way more masculine face. But like those boxes were hilarious. Those names were iconic. I was with Philip, like, and Bubba. And one of them was Madonna, right? It was like, oh, see, I wish I had the names. But anyways, the names of the boxes were so good. I don't
like a prairie.
Like a prairie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I guess it says you don't really know what's in the boxes either too, but I would agree is the fact that it is the first episode, and like I don't think you want to make enemies on the very first episode because, you know, it already showed all the girls are kind of already turning on Kind because it's like
right.
If you give producers something to work with episode 1, because they're backstage, they're like, okay, who is going to be the villain? So
yeah.
You know, and if you're going to be a little villainous, so yeah, I wouldn't want to ruffle feathers episode 1 anyways. But then Kind did that on, did she not?
Right. We kind of see this like brewing dynamic between Scarlett Bobo and Kind, where Scarlett's not having it. They're in the workroom and they're actually talking about who can sew and who can't. And Scarlett Bobo's like, oh, I don't sew. And Kind was like, oh, it's nice getting to know you. But this does bring up an interesting dynamic. Usually in the first challenge, it is kind of one of these make to create moments. Do you think queens should learn to sew, or like it's kind of frustrating when you hear queens like not being able to sew, you know?
Yeah, I always I have always been a fan of reality TV, and so I used to love the show Survivor, and I was like, you know what, if you're going to be on Survivor, learn how to make fire. Like that's something you'd want to learn how to do. Learn how to get 2 pieces of wood and learn how to do that, and you're good. Where I'm like, if you get on Drag Race, you better learn how to like learn the basics at least, like, you know what I mean, like be able to sew a bodysuit or a little dress that you can then go nuts with the glue gun on, you know what I mean? But make sure that we can see some sort of structure. And it's not like you have to learn how to sew everybody's sizes, just learn how to sew something for you, right?
Right.
Don't admit it. It's like, there's no gun to your head being like, oops, sorry guys. There's no gun, okay, wait, and take 2. There's no gun, there's no gun to your head about like, can you sew? Do you know what I mean? It's like when they're like, oh, can you sew? Yeah, I can sew, even if you can't, because if you can't, then that's everyone loves to jump on that. Oh my God, she can't sew, get her off. You know what I mean? It's like, and just like you said, I'm sure these girls knew, you know, 1-2 months in advance that they got it. It's like, hun, take a sewing class. Like, I'm sure there's like a free one somewhere online. Watch a YouTube tutorial. Do you know what I mean? Like, get stuff.
Yeah, it was, it's just interesting that it's like, it's almost like a trope of Drag Race. There will always be a queen that doesn't know how to sew, and it's like crossed over to Canada, which is interesting. But what I love is before they hit the runway, we kind of get, you know, the makeup tutorials. And sometimes on the American one, it can seem kind of forced, like they're trying to force a topic onto us. But this one was really kind of a genuine moment where we get both Boa and Juicebox talking about sobriety that is very tough in the field and industry that they're in. Like you are starting at 9 p.m. sometimes, like it's like the opposite of a traditional 9 to 5. I can't imagine, you know, and you have to be performing, you have to be loud, you have to be out there. So it was really interesting. And I'm just curious, because you are in the scene, you're in Toronto, how does that work? Like I know queens are turning up backstage, but when a sober queen comes in, is there a different dynamic? Do you think that affects them in terms of prepping or getting on stage?
It does for sure. Like, I mean, I knew Boa and Juice before they like hit their sobriety. And I will say, like, I'm glad they're both sober now. Same with like Toronto Queen, Ivory Towers. The three of them are actually all sober now. And they're way better performers, and they're funnier on the microphone, and they're just more likable in general. But I would say that it's easier said than done. Like I have sometimes I'll like say, you know what, I'm not going to drink this week. Like I do love my booze, but there's times where I say, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit of a week off and not drink so much just because I need a little detox. But even doing that is super hard because people want to give you shots. People want to give you a double. They, you know, like it's part of the experience of drag, right? Where like I have pretended to do shots a lot. Like, okay, because you don't want to insult the customer too, and you want the bars to make money. But I would say, like, when Juicebox got kind of emotional talking about how people stopped going to her shows, like she's not lying. Like there is that effect of like people saying, you know, they want to have a good time and party with the queen. Even when I get hired to do like private gigs or even at a house, like they want to get you liquored up because it's fun, right? It's like this is the superstar. You see rock stars drinking, and drag queens are kind of the rock stars of like, you know, their buildings or their venues, right? So yeah, it's definitely very interesting. But I 100% support all of them in their journey right now because they're definitely better queens without the booze. For sure.
It's funny, right? Because when you drink, like, even when I'm like out trying to have fun, like it's hard because I'm always like, oh, I am funner when I'm drunk. But then there's that one shot you do that all of a sudden you went from being fun drunk to sloppy drunk. And if I'm on stage trying to perform for hundreds of fans, it's like, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm messy.
Especially the young queens. Like there's so many young queens right now because of the accessibility of drag and being on YouTube. So sometimes these queens have been practicing drag since they were like 16, 17, they just hit 19, they're doing their first show, and you know, they go crazy. I was lucky that my parents kind of like gave me wine when I was like a kid. so I was, but like not in a bad way, like here, try it here. So I never craved really like getting wasted because I was like, oh yeah, I've already had that, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
No, but I get what you're saying. You were exposed already to kind of drinking.
Yeah, and then that's what I meant. It wasn't really that huge of a deal for me. Where I do see a lot of the baby queens where we get our drink tickets, and then I'll see them running around being like, "Can I get one of your drink tickets? I want another drink ticket." I'm like, "No, because I won't let you on stage if you drink another drink."
Right.
Nerves. I've seen that. I think I've seen you and pre-host the at Woody's the.
Yes. Yeah. The open stage. Yeah.
Ooh, you see some of those kids, they're nervous, and as you would be, and like, you know, they've done one or too many drinks. You're wasted.
Right. It's interesting because we are seeing this shift almost in like awareness about sobriety. We saw it on All Stars as well with Blair and Juju saying like, you know, they had to take a path of sobriety to further their careers in entertainment. So it's also like we're seeing creatives, entertainers really kind of find this path and really speaking up about it, because a lot of entertainers that do take that path almost feel ashamed and like don't really talk about it. So I just love that it was such a perfect, authentic moment for the first episode of Canada's Drag Race.
And you can tell there was no like producer in the ear being like, talk about, you know, when your mom left you at the bus stop.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, it was so good. Good, y'all. Like, perfect episode of TV, man.
Right. Okay, let's talk runway looks.
Yay.
So here on Thirst, we're going to do a bootleg version of Toot or Boot. We call it Quenched or Parched. Shout out David Robert for coining the phrases.
I love it.
If you are quenched, this means that the queen gave you everything that you needed. You are well hydrated. It was a tall drink of water. If you are parched, it just meant you wanted more. You're thirsty for more. So let's kick things off. We'll go in the order that they walk the runway, but we have Anastasia Anakwe. She got the Canadian Gay Box, so Canada Day. And she made this dope red puffer coat, which give me your thoughts. I mean, for me, right off the top, I was quenched. It was a perfect look for me.
See, I don't want to talk shit about like production, but part of me is like, where were those materials in the box when she was opening it? I'm like, where did you get this puffer jacket material? But maybe it was in there. Unbelievable look. Unbelievable look. Love a Canadian look.
So I rewatched the episode because I was thinking the exact same thing with the jacket, and she actually does pull out the fabric, and she made that puffer thing like all herself. Like she actually sewed it to look like that. Like, so she is a talented seamstress. Like I was blown away that like this is actually something she did it in that, like, I think they get a few hours to do this. Like it's I'm looking at the photo right now, and it's just insane. I'm like, is this something they sold at Roots that you just cut like a thing in? I'm like, no, she actually put everything in there to make it look like that jacket. Like it was just a piece of fabric that she turned into that. So she's incredible.
Right.
I'm quenched from her for sure.
She's quenched.
We can talk about judging after, because I mean, I have comments about where that look landed. Next we have Kiera with the Like a Prairie Box, the Babadook bitch scarecrow, she called herself.
Right.
And it was a quench for me as well. The reveal was a moment. I loved it. I loved it.
It actually looked so cool. It looked like very like Balmain, that this part. Oh my God.
Hey.
You know what I mean? Oh, it looked so cool. I loved. Yeah, it looked expensive, and it's like, and trust me, Juice Box my girl, but it's like it was the polar opposite of just sort of creating, you know, a piece of fabric around to make it a top. Like this woman worked. As
yeah,
you guys
like
the pics too.
It has all the elements. Like she's got the corset, the hat, and the way that she didn't just like glue the flowers on randomly. They actually like look spread out really, really nicely. And like I hate comparing queens too, I do, but like she's giving me like a little bit of Evie Oddly, but in like the best way possible. Like I'm like, you know what? You look like a queen who's gonna, you know, who could go to the top with this look. That's what I mean, that comparison.
Yeah, and it was a nice moment because she, you know, there's so many personalities, but we didn't see much of her. So to have such a strong runway, I was like, good for her. Next we have Lemon, and she got the jock straps, which was like a play on sport. Not the best. This look left me very parched, and it's mostly because my favorite moments of the looks were not in the box. Like I loved her hair and makeup, but it wasn't the challenge. So that's gonna get a parched from me.
It's funny. I'm glad you actually just said that, because I was just about to be like, no, I don't agree with the judges. This is definitely, but you're right. It is that sick wig. And now that I'm zooming in on it, she's really just tied that pink thing around her with like a yellow string, hasn't she? Like it's.
He's getting the zoom ins right now. Yeah, no, I think it's like, I met Lemon in December, so before she got on the show, and she is like a super talented drag queen, but like an incredible performer too. But seeing this, I think she got screwed over with like the sports thing. Like I probably would have, like I picture myself being in this challenge, being like, I don't know what I would have done either. Like I'm like, yay sports, like I don't get it,
right.
But it seems like I like the top part, like. But the bottom seems like really messy, and like, you know, we got to do the full look here. You're on Drag Race, so
right.
I guess she did what she could do.
So you're both parched on that one.
I will say parched, yes, parched from that lemon, honey.
Right, and then next we have Alona Burley. She got the Muskoker. I can't do that well. And she basically.
Watching may not know, Muskoka is like the bougie cottage country bar. So like,
yeah.
Right, Americans are watching this being like, what?
Right. But this was very underwhelming for me. This was definitely a parched. I got the vision. I just don't think she used enough materials from the boxes. It just looked like she made a gray dress, which just fits her body perfectly. It just, in a creative challenge, I wish she just pushed it a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think it was like, I'll go as far as saying I think this was like my least favorite actually. I follow her on Instagram and her looks are usually like the ones. Like she knows how to, maybe if you give her more time, but on the challenge, it didn't seem up to her standards, like not even close.
Wow, I know, I'm looking at this too. It's funny, I like it, and I really liked her a lot, and I loved actually when we, again, Belle and I were at a viewing party, and when she was sharing her experience with being Indigenous Canadian, yeah, is that?
Yeah.
Was snapping, and it was such a like supportive reaction to that. I thought that was so amazing. Sorry, so I love the look. However, I see absolutely no Muskoka in that, really. At all, really. Like, where's the cottage country Han?
Right. Like, I'm wondering what material she got in her box for the Muskoka one. I got to rewatch and like focus on that because you're right. There's no Muskoka elements in it.
So sorry, honey. I'm parched.
Same.
Up next, we have our YouTube sensation Kind with a Yukon Gold Digger box. She calls herself the Disco Diva, but the balls are falling apart, which is leaving me all the way parched.
That wig. Sorry, that wig.
You didn't like the wig?
Oh my God, look at the hairline on the wig. No, ma'am. The outfit. But I will say that I am quenched on it. She made this herself. I actually really like it. I do. They were like, oh, it's so basic, but I didn't even really agree. But yeah, you know what? If we're just talking looks, I'm sorry, I am quenched from that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not quenched. I'm still parched. I feel like, you know what? I don't think I'd be able to make a bell-bottom jumpsuit, so I will give her props for that. However, like there's the things where it's like, you know, you don't want your wig to fall off on a runway and you don't want your outfit to fall apart. So I'm not sure if she's ever like used that E6000 glue before, or like how to get things to stick. Cause I was like, again, like it's like when you watch a play, you know, when you see a performance or a live performance and someone drops something and then like, you're not looking at it takes you away from the performance. You're like, oh my goodness, that pencil fell off the table. Is the dancer gonna fall now? Or something like that. So I was distracted right away. And then when they kept falling, like when, well, I guess we'll talk about it later in the episode. But I was like, when they kept falling, I was like, how is she not? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
That was bad.
Right. It was, I mean, we'll break it down in terms of the judging after, but up next we have Scarlett Bobo, and she actually gave me one of my LOL lines where she's like, I would get a lot of dick in this at the Stampede. I was like, yes. And she's doing the cow print pants and the bandana. I mean, I'm quenched after seeing this. My only critique is the bandana on the arms. I think it just is very clear that it was just a bandana tucking an arm strap. I just wish it was something more was done with it. I almost feel like it didn't even need it. Just because those pants are dope and the top. I mean, I'm quenched.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's giving me kind of like Toy Story, Woody Cowboy. Like, yep. I think she did a great job of like, you know, she took the theme and she made it very Scarlett Bobo. Like, if Scarlett Bobo if we were celebrating something at a club that was like, you know, cowboys or something, like this is how she'd show up.
Right.
Make chaps? She did.
Yeah.
She did.
Good for her. That's a quench, honey, because
yes, quench.
That wasn't easy. But you're right. I'm looking again. It's like she did not need those arms, but you never know what the judge is going to do, right? Like you could come out without the arms and they'd be like, it needed something more. And it's like,
right. Yeah, it's better to almost do more and have the judges like wheel you back in than like not, I guess. Up next, we have Jimbo in the Rain Blow It Up box. And in a still photo, it kind of looks like a mess when I'm looking at the photo. But the way it walked the runway and the way it had like this ripple bounce movement thing, it was so exquisite. This is probably my favorite look. I mean, it is. I am quenched after seeing this, honey.
It's one of my favorites too. Like when Brooke said, you know, working with these colors is hard, and it is, because you have to include every single color and make it look like blended. And if you look at the detail in the skirt, like she really did think of, I know in a photo, again, like you're saying, it doesn't really give it justice, but on TV, the way she placed all the colors, it kind of made it look like it was giving it like a rippling effect with the rainbow. She was one of my favorites for sure. Completely quenched.
What was, okay, see, I gotta zoom in. Daddy's getting old here. Oh, those are zippers.
They were zippers. Yeah, all of them are zippers. That's why she said something like, I have 600 pockets.
What box did she get?
Rain blow.
Yeah, rain blow up.
Yeah.
that took a lot of work. Like, that's amazing. I mean, of course that's a quenched, right? Like, that's amazing. I love her. I didn't think I'd like her in the Meet the Queens and stuff. And it's like, come through.
I'm living.
As soon as I saw her drag ball video, I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with her.
Right. That was a moment.
I was like, I'm obsessed with her.
Okay, up next we have Tainomi Banks. She got the Lumberjanes box, and she gave us kind of this print with a blue overcoat. I almost feel like the overcoat and the socks didn't really work for me. Like, I wish it was almost just her fierce Tainomi body that we know and love, and then that whatever was under it, because the hair is great, the makeup's great, I love the earrings. I just felt she got kind of drowned out by this cape and the socks, if that makes sense. You know, I live for Tainomi, but this left me parched.
Yeah.
All people in Canada, or all people in Toronto, know to be afraid of Tainomi Banks, so I am. I hope she doesn't see this, right? I mean, queen, Toronto queen. Yeah, girlfriend, I'm surprised they didn't clock it, because it really, at least in this photo on the Canada Drag Race Instagram, really just does look like a piece of fabric you like tied.
And what I had wished she had done, and like maybe she did do it, I don't know, but they didn't show it in the episode, is that I wish she did kind of like when Brooklyn did her reveal for that disco thing. Like I wish she had I wish she had taken off the coat, because I don't love the coat, but I have to say I actually am a fan of the socks, because the socks, I think what she was going for was to give it like that whole like foxtail, like, you know what I mean? That like expensive foxtail look that like a lumberjack might have. Like, so I kind of loved this, like the whole sock take on that lumber Jill look. But I feel like it didn't, like the coat's kind of hiding it in a way. So I love the lumberjack print underneath it, and I love the socks. I think the coat just hides a lot of the goodness under there.
You are 100% right, now that you say that you didn't even really get to see what was underneath, and that is a reveal look. You're right.
Right.
Yeah, if she had dropped it, and like, but I've heard that the studio was absolutely freezing. I don't know if you guys have heard that, because even when the production person comes out on stage, they're literally wearing a winter jacket and a hat. Like I heard the studio was freezing. So you're like, oh, it really is Drag Race Canada.
Yeah.
And when did they film this? What time of year? Was it December? November?
They started filming November 1st, I believe, and they finished near the beginning of December.
Interesting. So yeah, cold.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Boa. She got the Man of Green Gables. Damn, that box was shady from the jump. Man of Green Gables. But I mean, listen, this is, and we'll talk about this in judging, but this look on its own left me parched. Her performance of it left me quenched. So it's kind of twofold. Like if I'm just looking at it, it's not the worst, but it's not my favorite. But it's really it's delivery that really kind of overall will push it into a quench. But if that was hanging on a garment rack, it would be a parched.
I actually totally agree with you. I think Boa stole the episode personality-wise. Yep. And even when Anastasia says something like, you know, it doesn't matter if you don't have a personality, it won't shine through how good your look is. So I agree with her, where it just goes to show you, if you have that winning personality, everything will be in heightened. Do you know what I mean? Right. Because when I look at this photo here, I liked it better last night. But that's because she was being Boa and moving around in it. And she killed it. And like the potato crown is hilarious. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, those bows kind of look like like
Right.
But and like the skirt doesn't seem like it's really that together, but it just goes to show you the judges and even I as a viewer was distracted because she sold it so well.
I didn't realize she had a potato in her hand. You know what? It's funny. You're so enamored while you're watching it that you do either have to watch it twice or get these photos the next day. Didn't realize she had a potato in her hand. Didn't realize the crown was made of potato. I'm quenched from this. I don't know. I'm surprised. Like, again, if she had come with this, if like she had come with this that she'd made, maybe. But like if actually made this,
yeah,
like I'm quenched.
Is she wearing two different shoes?
Yeah.
I think she spray painted one of them. Like I think that's what she did.
And didn't have the time to do the other one?
I mean, maybe it was a choice. Like, I don't, maybe I like, because I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, next we have sadly one of our bottom queens. It's Miss Juicebox with a Much Rusic video box. Listen, the vision and the concept was there 100%. I just think it lacked in execution, unfortunately. And then my only kind of argument with this is that the way Boa kind of was able to save her look with her personality and propel her to the top. I wonder if Juicebox was able to give us a little bit more Juicebox-esque, if that would have saved her and potentially maybe a Kine or somebody else would have been in the bottom. But
the dance runway, like a Much music video dance, really.
Right. Yeah, this is gonna leave me a little parched here.
Of course. She's wearing 3 different color scrunchies, 2 in her hair, 1 in her wrist, or 2 in her wrist. I'm so Bubba, we gotta hear from you. You're on Spice Queens with her. What
I know that I think this is now, like, now that I've been talking about this show, I'm like, yeah, this is like the hardest part for me to talk about, really. I think it's because obviously I love Juicebox so much, and I think she's such a fierce performer. Like, in my opinion, I think she won the lip sync, but we'll talk about that later. But the thing is, this outfit, it's like, I guess like you have to, when you're there, what goes through your mind of, I have to be creative and I have to do something right now. And I think she was like, this is a good idea. I'm going to cut this up. It's going to look like this and it's going to be great. I didn't really think of any other ideas. And she didn't really use her box when they said to her, like, we wish you used more of your box. When you watch the episode, she's pulling out those like cassette tapes and all these things. So in my mind, I'm like, what would I have done? And I was like, Juicebox is so tiny. She could have taken out the film tape and like made a dress with that and like added I was just thinking of what I would do. But again, like, who knows? There is a lot of pressure on this show, and I'm being biased because I feel sorry for my sister.
Did you talk to her last night or today? Is she okay?
I haven't talked to her yet because I feel like she's probably getting 800 million messages. But she put on her story and on Twitter. Well, she uploaded like the most iconic photo. If you haven't seen it yet, go look at it. It's like the angel falling down. Like even seeing the photo, I was like crying. I was like, Juicebox is gonna be just fine. Like she's on the first season of Canada's Drag Race. She's an absolute like joy to work with. She's super sweet, and she's not just a social media queen. She's a great entertainer, so she'll be fine. But again, I will agree with you guys. The outfit did make me parched. I wanted more. Oh, one thing. What made me mad was when the judge said it was a shake and go wig. That is not a shake and go wig. Like, that's actually a lace front that's been like styled. So I feel like he was just like throwing away terms. Maybe it's not like the most iconic high pony that you could have ever seen, but it still is a styled wig. So I don't like that they're throwing away those like drag race terms like loosely, because that's not a shake and go wig. If that's a shake and go wig, I'll go to the store and buy all of them.
Because your wig, it literally looks like it's coming out of your head. I guess when bangs get involved, like, it's hard to see, but
that is true. You're right.
Did you guys see that Shea Coulee obviously watched it live and tweeted about her?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I was watching it, I was thinking like, am I being biased? Like, and like I said, I like Lemon. I think she's a great entertainer, but I felt like Juice connected to the song. All right, maybe we shouldn't talk about this part yet, but I felt like Juice connected to the song like immediately to me. Like, I was like, okay, like, I believe that you're actually singing the song. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, we'll debate the lip sync for sure, but I get what you're saying. No, I mean, It all in all, Juicebox had a great run for the time that she was on there. She gave us moments, and then that lip sync is such a way to like be remembered by, you know.
I didn't realize she was great too. I was like, wait, are you hot?
Oh yeah, like Juicebox has such a great body, and I think that's why when she designed this costume, she's like, I am so hot. Look at my little body. And like, if I had that body, I'd probably wear nothing too, for sure.
Right.
Started. One of the people I was with last night was like, I totally hooked up with Juicebox once.
Oh God.
Hey.
Okay, moving on to another Toronto queen. We have Miss Priyanka. She got the Gone Fishy box. Listen, I love it. It obviously left me quenched. My only, obviously we're getting to the nitty gritty in terms of critiques. I just wish that sash was a little bit thinner in a way. It just looked a little bulky to me. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't even know if it's really needed because, I mean, her body looks amazing.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe it's almost to the point, I think somebody said earlier, of it's like, you don't want the judges to ever say, wish there was more, especially when you're just doing like a body in a creative challenge. But I mean, it's quenched. Her makeup and hair, totally head to toe. I loved it.
Makeup looks great.
Yeah, I'm quenched too. I think something that I like to like say that being a part of the Spice Queens and being part of like that Toronto drag circle is we do really want to do that head to toe, and Priyanka always gives you the head to toe. Even her promo look, she had the icicles on her feet where she had the crab legs on this.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't leave any part of that drag experience untouched. So, you know, I love my girl Priyanka.
I'm quenched. And it's funny, like Boa, you know, Toronto Queens, honey. Toronto Queens.
Yeah.
She gave like, I can't think of the word, but she gave what Boa gave on the stage. I feel like she was doing like a performance. I find a lot of queens walk the runway like a model, which they all look like models, but this is another this is almost a pseudo lip sync for you. This is like a moment to perform, essentially. I love it. I totally agree with the sash though. I always feel, I love the, sorry, my puppy's barking. I love the net thing she's wearing. She could almost just done more of that net. I love it. I'm quenched.
Yeah, it was a good night for Priyanka. Up next we have Alona. Oh no, we did Alona Burley, right? She did the Muskoka. So last we have Miss Rita Vega. So she came out with this kind of jacket that revealed a blue little dress. Overall, I'm quenched, but I have a lot of opinions because, I mean, we just talked about this almost, I think it was 2 episodes ago on Drag Race All-Stars, where it's like the jacket, the moment, like, is it kind of a cop-out? Because the blue dress is kind of simple to me. But once again, performance trumped. I love the detail of like the frostbitten hand, that it was like so cold, it was red. Like those little details kind of really elevated the look for me. I almost wish she had the jacket on longer.
Yes,
the blue dress was not it for me.
You actually reminded me she wore a jacket because I'm on the Canada's Drag Race Instagram, like looking at them, and they've used the photo of just her in the dress, and I was about to be like, wait, how the fuck did she win?
I was thinking that too.
That jacket, she should almost have just maybe worn the jacket the whole time or something. That jacket
She should have.
Stunning. How did she make that?
Yeah, I mean, she really used her materials. I'd say probably one of the best of using the materials in a creative way to really show the theme that she got. So I do love the jacket. It's kind of like the reverse of like what we were saying about Tynomi's. We were like, take off the jacket, where this is like, keep on the jacket. Like one of my big things, and like these are like some of my like pageant drag friends who taught me, is that, you know what, if you're gonna do a reveal, make sure that the reveal is more sickening than what's underneath always has to be better, because it doesn't really add up. Like one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone takes off a wig but the wig underneath of it is crap. Like it's like, I know it's hard to do, but it's still like, it still is like, I'm like, oh cool, so you have a shitty wig and then it's another shitty wig. Like it doesn't impress me. But with this look here, her coat was so good. And I think, again, the details, like the hands, I remember I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. Second time I watched it, I was like, oh, wow. Like she really went on there with, like, I guess, blush or something. And it looks like she's freezing. And the cheese curds, you know, I'm a cheese queen, so I'm glad she incorporated that too. So I'm definitely quenched with Rita. I wish I'm not loving the dress, but the coat redeems itself.
Yeah, that dress looks cheap. Like, if you zoom in, it's not.
It looks like a piece of fabric just wrapped around her. Yeah.
Right. And then let's just wrap things up with this iconic Carly Rae Jepsen Canadian icon lip sync. So the Twitter sphere, the social medias are very divided. We think that it should have been a double Shantae, and or people are saying that Juice Box should have stayed. But I do think it was almost like we were just talking about Canadians being too nice. Imagine on the first episode of Canada's Drag Race, they're like, double Shantae, you're both great. So I get the elimination. I'm just curious to know your thoughts on the lip sync.
I couldn't say it better. I feel like the exact same way. Like, obviously, could they have kept both? Yeah, they could have, because it was a really good lip sync, and they could have. But again, you kind of feel like that's like a cheap shot. Like when you watch, when they crown two people or something like that, you're like, whatever. You still want a winner. It's like the first episode, you're like, okay, like someone has to go home, or you're gonna feel ripped off of as a viewer. But I think with it being Canadians who are watching the show, we're like, oh, but Juice. But I will agree. So I was watching the lip sync thinking like, okay, like Juice has me connected right away, but I'm like, am I being biased? So I sat there, didn't say anything. I was actually really quiet when I was watching it. I felt intense. I felt the sweating coming on, because I was just like, this is crazy. Like I know how much money these girls have spent on all these looks that they're not even going to get to show right now, right? So that's crazy on its own. But I was like, I'll keep my opinion to myself, because I feel like I'm going to be biased because I liked Juice Box's better. I feel like if Lemon didn't do her tricks, she wouldn't have won. Mm-hmm. And I kind of hate that. Like, I'm not the dancing sensation, but I can move really, really well, and I can still kill a lip sync. And I would hate to be in Juice's spot where it's like, I think I got sent home because someone could do the splits. Like, you know what I mean? Right. Because Juice Box connected to the song better, in my opinion.
Completely agree. I have a question for Belle, but I just want to quickly say I agree. It's funny. Even on the most recent episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, a queen just did a jump split, and Ru still, and it's like, maybe in season 1, 2, 3. I mean, I doesn't love a jump split. Shout out Ivory Towers. However,
it's incredible. Yeah,
that doesn't mean that is immediately. Oh, she did a jump split. Give her to her. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it was a tight race. But I think if you did take out the tricks, it could have been anyone's, maybe Juice Box's. But I also want to say, maybe not a double Shantae, you stay. Why not, be like, you stay, and then, but it's the first episode, no one's going home. That's what you could have done. Because they've even done that on the American.
Testament to production and the cast that towards the end, you didn't miss RuPaul. Like, that is such a huge moment to, like, when Tyra Banks left America's Next Top Model, the whole time you were waiting for Tyra Banks to come back to replace Rita Ora. But by the end of this episode, I was like Googling Jimbo. I was looking up like all these queens' different looks, and that's a testament to the cast, and it's also a testament to the production value and the storytelling, which is it's really, really great. I'm so excited.
You're totally right. You even mentioning it, like, I actually didn't even think about that until you brought up the question of, like, how did you feel about the lack of RuPaul? I was like, I forgot that it was his show. Just because it still obviously had, like, I was glad that we still got to hear, like, Drag Race Star, and, like, the whole, like, and the way that they edited certain thing and the alarm, I was like, okay, it's still, like, a familiar thing. Like, you still want it to be familiar because that's, like, the way we like to watch the show. But I like that he got to have a little bit of moments, because you did say, okay, because a lot of people were like, this show's going to be cheap. RuPaul's not even doing it. But then when you saw her, you're like, oh, she is here.
Yeah.
Right.
But then, like, when she was done, I honestly, until you brought up that question at the beginning of this podcast, was like, oh, yeah, no, I didn't miss her at all. I forgot it was her show.
Me too. And I actually think Brooklyn did a great job. I thought that could go either way as well. I was shocked. I'm jumping, and I know we got to wrap up, but I was shocked they didn't send Brooklyn in the room first. Remember, it was Stacey, and I was like, wait, is Stacey the host? But Brooklyn came in right after you, Paul. But I thought Brooklyn was a fantastic pseudo Rue. And actually, one more thing, I remember they kept being very clear. They're like, the three of us make the decision. I'm like, well, there's four of you sitting up there, like implying that the celebrity has absolutely no say in the decision. Do you remember that? They kept being like, where I was like, friggin' Alicia Cuthbert was living.
Yeah, she said she liked Juice too, so I guess she had no say.
Justice for Juice. Let's call this episode Justice for Juice.
Justice for Juice.
Here with the because girl, that's a show.
Right.
Unbelievable. And Pre.
Yeah, the Spice Girls, if you are ever, when they start touring Canada, when shit opens up again, or you're ever in Toronto, you really got to check it out. They turn it out.
Really.
But thank you guys so much for being here. I can't think of two other people I would want to break down this iconic premiere with. Season 2, Baby Bow Bow, we're waiting. But until then, where can people Insta-stalk you and see all your looks?
Yeah, my Instagram is @baby_bell_bell, but only one L in the bells. So like the cheese, but with an extra bell. I perform in Toronto all over. Obviously, a lot of the places I perform at are not open right now, but right now there are patio shows happening at Cruise and Tangos 7 days a week. So if you check out my Instagram or Cruise and Tangos, you'll see where to find me. I'd also say check out the show Queens on CBC Gem. It's still streaming. The app is free to download, and it's a great show written by like queer people, directed by queer people. The cast is all queer people. It's like such an incredible project that I got to be a part of. So check it out.
Awesome. And David Robert, thank you. Your Insta stories have been honestly LOL. They've been so good. Where can people Insta-stalk you?
Yeah, it's just @David Robert on Instagram. And yeah, Neil, thank you so much for this. This has been so fun. Like, and Bell Bell, sorry, I wanted to jump back for you. Is that, girl, do you have your COVID era lives you did with your mother? Guys, Bell Bell, the whole time.
Oh my God, yes.
Bell Bell shows.
Yeah, so I did 14 of them. We did 14 weeks of online drag shows because I was quarantining in Pickering, which is where I grew up. But I live in Toronto, and I was lucky enough to still get that CERB money to pay my rent here. I wasn't living here, but I was paying rent.
Oh my God.
Just because like that's what covered it. But I'm happy to be back in the city now. But yeah, there's some episodes, or some of them I did post on my I think IGTV is what it's called.
Yeah.
So it's on my Instagram somewhere. But Mama Belva has been welcomed and asked to perform now at Cruise, and when the other bars reopened, like Woody's, Glad Day, Gladstone, they all were like, yeah, we want you and her.
Oh my God, I love that.
Season 3, hun.
Yeah, right? I was hoping that after the feedback I got from that, I was like, you know what? I hope I just invented a drag challenge for season 2 and this gets me.
Right, mom makeover challenge, and you just play with Mama Bell Bell.
Right? Watch they'll make that a challenge now, but like I won't be on, she'll just be the guest judge.
But to everybody listening, if you can take a minute to subscribe and make sure you write a review on iTunes, but only if it's nice. And now we are entering the YouTube space. So if you are on YouTube, make sure you give this a thumbs up and subscribe. And you can follow us @This Is Thirst. Thirst is with a Y. We are on Instagram. And I'm Anil Joshua, ANEAL Joshua. And always remember, guys,
The thirst is real.
Bye, cunt.